Okay, it's Friday, June 30th. This is end of the day SPY recap. It's also the end of the week, end of the month, end of the quarter, end of the half year. So a lot begins starting in July on Monday. But for now, let's just quickly look at today and then kind of look at some of the bigger picture stuff that's in play. So obviously today you can see we gapped up big. The pre-market range was between these two blue lines. This upper blue line was a target. And you can see here on the 15-minute chart, once you had the big gap up and price started up, even though it's tough to sometimes, go with exhaustion risk to the upside, it did follow through. It essentially had one pullback and then another push up to our targets. And once you kind of were gapping up and moving up to start the session, you can see here the clear targets at the blue line, the secondary trade in here. Even though you kind of can buy it there if you wanted to take a small loss and then re-enter, that was something to do. It obviously comes down and I'll get into this more in the recap, big picture recap video. You're going to get a lot of these within an uptrend, shorter time frames, coming down to take out some liquidity areas before turning up, and that presents some of the best opportunities. So we held the midpoint to the first bar on this whole little consolidation. So that was when I drew this red line, and here's the highs of the day when we were pulling back, figuring we're going to get up there again, because that was the first push of the day, and then reach our target. And you can see that's what happened, and then it sold off right at the end. But this was very high probability once you saw the gap up, not really failing, that we were heading towards our target. And now we end up on the weekly chart with a nice, it's kind of a 3-bar. It's failed on the inside bar to the upside, got to the midway point of that bar, not only took out the high of the inside bar, but then reached its first target with a big green bar to end the week. So at this point, other than the good trading that's been in play, and this is something I'm going to get to again as I kind of look at what lies ahead. You could see this week after the pullback in a big uptrend, this was some of the best trading opportunities all week long. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You can go back on all the videos. There were some great buys, one way or the other on all these days back up to the next target, and that's what's kind of unfolding here as we move forward. There's actually a nice uptrend in play, even though I can certainly see some volatility kicking in, filling in this gap. I actually can see this pivot low being taken out before maybe moving much higher. So there's can be some good downside action here, but the best trades in this environment, until really things change on the big picture charts, are going to be these deep pullbacks that scare everyone and then eventually turn up like it did this week. So that's what, keep that in mind. Even if we come down next week, or at some point we go up and fail and come down a little bit, that eventual reversal up is going to be, some of the better trades, in my opinion, still going forward. So let's kind of look at the bigger time frames and kind of just get a macro look at everything. First of all, yearly chart right here. I still see this as 3 years now of just kind of a range. That's what this really is. Green bar, big outside red bar. Now we're just inside on this bar. It doesn't mean we're gonna, immediately, chop around and come down big, but it almost seems like we're in this range. And within this range, you can see the weekly chart certainly can go straight up for a long period of time with relatively few, pauses and pullbacks. So, but we are in a range the way I see it. So at any moment you could have a little bit of a pullback, and that would kind of be evident on this weekly chart when and if it happens. So now we go to the quarterly chart. And kind of work our way down. And what I see here, if I just quickly glance at this without thinking much about it, I see this big red bar to the downside that had the 2 down, 2 up move, and I see no reason why on the quarterly basis for the next 3 months we don't get above that high. These 4 bars here and then this ultimate 5th bar should broaden out above that high. So that takes us up to until proven otherwise, until this quarterly chart turns down in some way and fails to get there. I see this as getting up as high as 45 or 457.83, that type of thing. That's where I, see this going until proven otherwise. So we could have good pullbacks in here, but the best trades are going to be when things turn up again. And then finally on the monthly chart, what you have here, I mean, if I would just look at this chart without even thinking much about it, I'd see a lot of consolidation here and then a pretty big breakout. So I say again, and this is kind of that quarterly high, I see no reason why even in the next month we don't continue up and get there possibly. I certainly would look at this big green bar breaking out of this tight range and expect some follow through. Again, until we get below the midpoint of this monthly bar, I'm not concerned at all about a downtrend in the big picture. So, and even if we kind of pull back a little bit, the best trades are going to be the weekly and daily charts turning back up. So keep that in mind, because I still think there's that bigger picture target here within this overall, range that's really developed. And it's been, for the last, well, if we look at it, the last 3 years here, somewhere in here, this is all range price action. So then on the weekly chart, we have the big red green bar. Essentially a 3-bar, so you have a little bit of exhaustion risk, obviously, but I still see follow through higher from this bar before turning lower until we get below the midpoint of that bar. I'm not going to be scared of the market pulling back too much, but I also wouldn't have any problem if I see a big red day like this, anticipating some deeper pullbacks, especially to fill this gap. Especially, I actually. It'd be interesting to see if we come down I just see this as liquidity down here and to shake everyone out and then really continue up a lot higher. So, let's just see if something like that unfolds. But again, you're going to see that on the daily chart first with a red reversal bar or something, that starts lower, and that could start the trend. And, if we start down here, we'll kind of watch day to day and see if we even approach these kind of targets. Certainly this gap will be filled, I gotta believe, at some point, but we could start up big starting the new month and quarter and everything next week. So we could start up there and then fail a little bit first. So anyway, that's kind of the big picture. It's still becomes a day-to-day thing. I expect a lot, some good volatility in here that could present some very good trading up and down, but I still think this is my bottom line. The best opportunities are going to be, pull either some kind of pullback on the weekly chart, like in this area. It might last a couple of weeks, that eventually start up. It could just be on the daily chart and then they start up. And this week we had the good inside week failure down. Maybe we'll get some kind of 2 up, 2 down, and it doesn't reach a target and you get a great looking weekly reversal bar, and that would propel it higher. So as long as this quarterly chart, or in this case the monthly chart, is working up towards this area, I'm going to stay really strongly biased to the upside and look for the best opportunities. We're a little exhaustion risk right here, so keep that in mind, and the volatility should present good trading both up and down. So that's kind of my outlook, and we will get going again to start a whole new week, quarter, and second half of the year on Monday.